everyone to today's Mālama Ikekai series. Just want to say aloha to and mahalo to Kanekoa Shultz from Kāko'o ʻŌiwi for being present today and presenting. And I'm going to go ahead and pule, and then we'll go ahead and turn everything over to Karen. So, e pule kako. Our dearly Father, as we bow our heads today, we thank thee for the many blessings that thou hast bestowed upon us. We please ask you to forgive us for our shortcomings and weaknesses and help us through many trials and tribulations. We ask thee that those present with their open minds and hearts, and that they welcome Kaʻo and his for his speaker series today. We ask that, we all enjoy the time that we spend together, and that those that are unable to be with us, that wanted to, that no harm or danger will fall upon them and ourselves. And we ask these many things in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Mahalo.
Hi everyone, I'm Tekili Ho'omalu, and I get to introduce our speaker for tonight, Kanekoa Shultz. And Kanekoa Shultz, he's been a longtime friend of Maui Nui Makai Network. He is a married father of 2 sons from Ewa Beach, but he works with families out in Kaneohe with Kāko'o ʻŌiwi and with Kāko'o ʻŌiwi and Pai, all of the ahupua'a families out there. But Kanekoa, he received his bachelor's degree in marine science from Occidental College, and then came home to UH Manoa, where he pursued his graduate degree, and his master's thesis was on intertidal lemur species on Koʻolaupoko, where he studied under Kael Duart, Isabella Abbott, and Celia Smith. Following that,
and that's good. That's good. That's good.
I got plenty more,
I have a son and a daughter. Sorry, but that's good. That's good. Enough about me. More about Kāko'o ʻŌiwi. That's like.
Well, this is Kanekoa Shultz then.
Yeah. Sorry, Tate. I just cut you off. Kalamai.
Go ahead.
For you guys, I recognize plenty of the names. I assume that's Anakala Eddie Cashman Sr. But I just and Uncle Mac. You guys can interrupt me anytime. You know pretty much how I roll. Happy to just sit down and just talk story. If you have any questions, pause. I'll pause the thing. Can go into detail, however you guys want. This is really for the Maui Nui Makai Network, to kokua you guys. And Karen, if you want to kick off people that are not part of Maui Nui Makai Network later, I'm happy to do that, just to talk story. I'm here to serve. Yeah, that is honestly what we're here for, to make sure that we are sharing what we learned and we move forward together. So serious, anytime you guys gotta stop me, just chime on in. I'm gonna share screen now, which is the presentation, and I guess for the next 4 hours I have you guys. Yeah, so perfect. Huh? Anyway, okay, kalamai. Can I go then? Is that okay, Tate? Okay. So our project is Māhuahua was a name given to us from Uncle Frank Hewitt. Māhuahua is to bring back the luxuriant food of Hawaii. Hawaii is a region or part of Heʻeia uli, and it's kind of an area that Auntie Alice them grew up, which is kind of below the Halaulani area. That's where actually Hawaii is in regards to Heʻeia. You can see with all of our different partners, and it's important that I mention a lot of them, because without their kokua, aloha, and support, there's no way Kāko'o could have lifted this project. And so obviously I'd like to thank NOAA, NER, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Forest Service, Koʻolaupoko Hawaiian Civic Club, DAR, DOFA, Nature Conservancy, HCDA, and of course Pai or Heʻeia, and all the rest of the ohanas and families that I might not have been able to mention. For the Maui Nui Makai Network, I was reminded of when you guys all signed up Pala Pala in Lahaina. I mean, Kalamai on Lanai, and we had that get together. So I'm happy to see a lot of you guys, or see your names at least. Moving on. So the mission of Kāko'o ʻŌiwi is obviously to create, for Project Māhuahua Eohoi, the ohana saw that there was a significant need to push culture programs and the ability for keeping things heʻeia. And within that, obviously economics is a part of it, but ensuring that it's a cultural activity, social and biological values that are needed, right? Because obviously we are nature, we are part of nature. If our aina can't sustain us, then how can we sustain our aina? And so, yeah, it was just basically to establish everything as a pu'uhonua. And that word is used quite a bit, but it's really a place for us to heal when looking at He'eia and all of the past experiences that the families have gone through and have advocated for. There's just been a lot of change. And so for the kūpuna, it was a very much a Hawaiian estuary where Hawaiian culture is being practiced. But many families are thriving, feeding, and educating throughout Hawaii. And then within that system, we talked about what do you guys want to see? And it was the restoration and the cultural connection, land management program, ed programs, research programs, natural wetlands, economic sustainability, and of course the final one, which is what is it called in terms of encouragement, mentorship, legacy, succession. Those are all very important things to move forward with. And so today basically gonna hit at least the top ones, and then we can have the long discussion about succession and encouragement and mentorship. So the current map of He'eia, as you see the beautiful ahupua'a, and often I love to be OG, Oʻahu grown and Oʻahu centric, so I gotta take care of my Maui ohana, so kalamai maile. But when looking at this, you can see the ahupua'a He'eia, and you can see the He'eia fish pond, which is something that our family at Paipa'a He'eia have done an amazing job restoring. But right behind that is about 405 acres of hillside and 300 acres of wetland. And so how do we restore that section as we are trying to kokua Paipai below? And so this upper image that you see here is kind of a very old photo of what it used to look like, but you can still see that there were roads and kuaunas established and the systems were set up. So you can see all these straight lines within the system. That's how you know that the kuaunas were present. Anyway. So for us, when we looked at this beautiful aina, we obviously, with the stories from Auntie Alice Hewitt and Auntie Carol Wright, we knew about the mo'olelos and what was there. And so looking at old photos, Nana Ike Kumu, looking to those sources, we were able to see what the land was. And this image to my bottom right is an important one because I think Auntie Alice and Auntie Carol, who obviously has passed on, but Auntie Alice is still present, obviously, but they talked about the bridge without mangrove, and it actually had some mangrove there, but they could still remember seeing the forest. And so I'm proud to say that within this generation and this current group, we were able to clear the majority of the non-native mangrove. And so obviously I welcome our families from Maui to come and stay with us or come at least visit, and you can see the view now of the mountains behind it. So in this image here, you can actually see the mountains, and you see them to this day. And it's important for us because we can actually count. Can you guys see my cursor? Yeah. So you can actually count the posts that are still present. And you can see where all of the old kuaunas were at the time, where the Ōaui flowed, right? You can actually measure how far the distance was with this kuauna that connected up to the Loko'i'a right here. What was the distance between the two, right? So it really gave us kind of a map system on what the walls used to be and where they need to be now. And so that section, you can see that there was obviously it cut right in here and came back out very, very close to the bridge. So yeah, and then this last image is an aerial looking down, and you can see all of the different pua ponds, but also all of the Loko'i'a that extended through here. And then we know that this land was owned by Uhu, which was one of the Konohikis under Abner Paki, and it was called Lo'i. So obviously we know what that was, so the fact that Lo'i Kalu extended pretty much almost to the edge of the fish pond was a really indication of how much wai was just flowing through, and how these kuaunas or lo'is, they could have been lo'is or Loko'i'a or umeiki, were all set up there. That's really the whole question. How do we get back to this image? How do we build this return? And so that's kind of how the project line is. Looking at this current model where you can see starting to the clearing of the mangrove. And Paipai has done a fabulous job. A lot of this mangrove is already gone, even from this image. But image to the right, again, is of the 1928 aerial image, and all of it in Lo'i Kalu. And so for us, I don't feel we're very original. We just know what our kūpuna did, and that's what we're trying to implement. So all the credit goes to them. And yeah, and then of course this romanticized version of ahupua'a, but we still love it. So yeah. Just saying, maybe moku ula, we could take it over and restore that. Just saying, being from my ohana. Okay, moving on. Sorry. So when you talk about restoring an ahupua'a at Kāko'o ʻŌiwi, obviously it's about planning and partnering. When we first initially started it, I was with the Nature Conservancy, and we had support from the late Senator Inouye. And with his support and Derek Chow and other people, we were able to really get the planning going. HCDA, Tony Ching, and then Deepak Nupane, who is currently retiring real soon. It was just the process, Susan Tamura, getting those pieces together. This image to our right was, of course, done with Townscape, Bruce Tachida, and they helped us to create kind of the conceptual graphic. And this conceptual graphic was also used for the He'eia Agricultural Authority with HCDA. I digress. The beauty of Zoom is you guys can't control me, so I can go on tangents and it's just where it goes. So Miley, I cannot see the card 5 minutes, but anyway, so yeah, moving on. So basically the whole purpose of this was sharing with the elder community, with our kūpuna. Obviously not all knowledge was shared, and it should never be stressed that they need to share everything. When they feel comfortable revealing what needs to be revealed, it is revealed. Yeah. And so it's important, like as we did this conceptual graphic, that there was room for new things to be put in later in life. I have no problem not being the one to bear that knowledge, right? There's a space for them to release, and when the time comes, it can be released. And yeah, and then obviously planning, permitting, and then finally after the cap, the action and restoration work. And planning and permitting to me was easy compared to action and restoration, right? Because in action, that's really where you see, oh, brother's amazing, or oh, we need to make a little difference on this, or we need change, or shoot, I need more help, I can't do this, right? So it's just how do you build those things? And of course for Kāko'o ʻŌiwi, it's looking at the development, the lands, our people. This is a 1924. This is taken obviously in September 30th, 1924. But you can see in Kahalu, all of Kahalu was all lo'ikalo. And what they've done now is they've made a huge spillway and taken out all of these lo'i. But just imagine how much water that held. And then right here is obviously ulumau, and you can barely see the fish pond. And you can see all the lo'ikalo in the back. So that's the momona of what we're trying to return to, right? When we talk about sustainable food production, positive changes, you know, how do we manage it? We know that our people did it in the past. This image to the right is kind of a layout of all of the lo'ikalo that we're in the process of trying to return to. And so here you see the lo'i systems that are rebuilding in phase 1. And then of course in phase 1, the wetland restoration work. Obviously this whole section, and this whole section will all be lo'ikalo also. So trying to get there. So not only will Oʻahu be able to provide all the toilet paper, but we'll have plenty poi too. Nah. I cannot read you guys, so if you want to turn your screens on. Okay, so looking at the wetland restoration, this was the initial one, and obviously mangrove is non-native, and there are beautiful species, but like when you see these are 80-foot high mangroves with less than an 8-foot diameter. And usually mangrove that are that old are usually 40 feet long, 40 feet high with massive buttresses, right? And so when you have this kind of shortness and such a high column of leaf litter, you see a lot of detritus, a lot of sediment, a lot of leaf litter mass that actually starts to choke out and prevent the native systems from thriving. And so this canopy was a real big issue for us, and we obviously were able to clear it with support. This is a very raw image, of course, but it's the initial clearing of the mangrove, the pivoting and protecting of the water line so that it doesn't just flow out, and then the clearing of everything. We learned pretty quickly with clearing of invasive mangrove. We do it during certain months of the year during the non-ope'a season. And we probably have now a fair amount of native birds. So very blessed to have that. You know, so with Ali'i Minor and his crew, what they're doing right now is the rebuilding of the birds in the Flora. So it's really important that you can see all of the native systems that are going. So obviously Laukahi, we view it as native, Neke fern, Pa'u Hi'iaka, all different types of native systems that have really started to establish and obviously train the native birds to start eating that material. But again, it came from the families within Wai'awa, it came from Ali'i Minor, and then was also part of Heʻeia. So it's just trying to keep everybody moving, keeping everybody going forward in the right way. And when I mean everybody, I mean the birds, the flora, the people, the kanaka, everybody. And again, our staff has done a fabulous job moving that forward. It's important to recognize that within our wetland system and our food system, there were a lot of partnerships. Again, for Kāko'o ʻiwi with the Koʻolaupoko and Civic Club as the grounding members, it was important to recognize how many other partners had to come through in order for us to get this done. You know, whether it was business, construction, permitting, bureaucrats, non-bureaucrats, it was just really important. And so in this image, you can see the clearing, the initial start of the mangrove clearing, and then kind of where it is today. Okay. And so it's just a part. This was actually not during Darby, but one of the other rain bombs that hit Heʻeia before that. And you can see the mangrove created a berm, and then all the water just shot right around it. And so now when we have other systems, as you'll see within the cap, the water is now starting to be filtered more effectively and efficiently. So, yep. And then of course, looking at food producers, management, academia, as we restore these lands, it's not only about natural resources, but it is about food, and it's about the resources that are being utilized. So this hale was built with mangrove from Kāko'o ʻŌiwi, and this is at Kawaihona Kana'auau in Nanakuli. And then here you can see after a major flood, our fence line got knocked down, and we stood it right back up, but you can see how much water flows in. And so, yeah, looking at the various systems of taro, looking at the various systems of labor that are needed to mitigate that. You guys have any questions? No? Okay. Serious? Going once? Okay. Then I'll keep talking. This image to the right is of a pu'epuʻe system, and Kāko'o ʻiwi goes in flux between doing the mounded system and doing the flooded system, or the Hawaiian system too. And so it just varies, right? We went into a pu'epuʻe system because our water at the lower sections were getting warm, and since it is a wetland system, the soils are becoming pretty anoxic, you know. So when you stick your feet into the mud, it bubbles, you get all that hydrogen. And so by elevating the sediment above the ground, you could actually basically ensure that this soil right here is aerobic. The backfall of that, or the problem with that, is it's labor intensive. The weeding, right now that you have soils exposed to the air, you're gonna have weeds growing faster. Now that you have soil exposed to the air, you're gonna have more things on it like centipedes and ants, but it does allow for the kalo to grow. And when it does flood, you basically have a system now where it's elevated almost 3 feet above the ground, you know, from the top, the breathing hole to the water level. So you can bank a whole lot more water in the system, but there's a catch to it, yeah? And then finally, of course, for Kāko'o is the economic development. So as we open up Aina and open up acreage, how does that revenue tie to our staff? How does that revenue tie to the cog in the wheel as it turns, right? If you need staff, you got to pay your staff. If you pay your staff, then you're dependent on more revenue to make sure your staff has a job the next year, right? And then you start rolling that wheel, and it can be a problem if, you know, sometimes there's no money, and so then what, right? People got to get furloughed, people got to get let go. How do you move that system to keep moving? So yeah.
Well, we have a question in the chat for you.
Okay.
From Alika Garcia, asked how the fish populations change with the mangrove clearance, and what kind of fish.
Yeah, we have a really special person, and I give all the credit to Ali'i Minor, his family, and how they are managing the system. And so I have never seen Oʻahu Naniha before in Heʻeia, and once we cleared the mangrove and he did his project, I can say there are other things that I'm not supposed to say, but just to see the Naniha there was a beautiful thing that my kids got to see. And so for that, we are forever grateful for that mele that we were able to see. And so, you know, I haven't, until we cleared the mangrove, we could not see again anai jumping in the mangrove area, because once the mangrove was cleared, the waterways were opened, or maintained, I should say, and we could see larger fish jumping through. the hole that are present now. And I don't want to go into detail because it's just our people are strong. And if our people are strong, obviously our native, our other people, right, our i'a are strong. And so providing them habitat that they can thrive in and excel in, of course they will excel in it. So the amount of fish that have returned, though it needs to be more, we do see them, we do hear them. So I hope that answered that question. Our partners at Nature Conservancy and DAR can give you a little bit more detail on the densities, the presence, but in terms of presence and absence, they are definitely present. So, and then of course, now that they're present, it puts a kuleana on our staff to take care of them, because we have two-legged kanaka that often love to be present too, right? So it's just a, which I guess is a good indication of presence. So, but yeah, like, I'm happy to talk story more offline, or when Karen kicks off everybody, not Maui Nui Makai Network, we can really talk story. Anyway, okay. Did I answer that? Sorry, I cannot see the chat, so kalamai. But yeah, like I said right there, right, increasing partnership, students, recruitment, how do we develop all of those pieces for succession? How do we create the aquatic restoration, with food and fish like we talked about? And again, for me, it is the Kāko'o ʻiwi staff, the staff that we have there, that have really allowed us to go forward with that whole process. And then we're moving now into with Nature Conservancy and the Koʻolaupoko Civic Club into food and forest restoration, and kind of getting those pieces going. And then of course, I cannot not mention the NERP partnership. With the NERP partner with Kawika Winter, we were able to really kind of move forward with stabilized funding for the whole system. And that's kind of what the NERP system has really been helping us with funding, with education. Their mission, which was a fun lift, was to perpetuate and look at contemporary Hawaiian management, which is traditional knowledge and contemporary knowledge. It can be Hawaiian, which throws everybody off more, but whatever. We are a mix of many things. And then finally, for us, it's still the restoration of agriculture. So, yeah. And again, for us, it's just momona, building it all up. And so, yeah, like, this is some of the age. Once the mangrove was cleared, then the mist would actually extend now down into through the mangrove area. And so for that, Hawaii Lona was an important thing for us. But going now more into like food and carbon, right? We're looking to do pepeao again, and all kinds of different things that we're trying to grow. This is Lindsay Ozawa and Nick Rapoon. But it's just, again, how do we move forward? As we look at Maui, what are the things that the kūpuna are ono for? What are the things that you guys want to see returned, right? Maybe it isn't ai, but it's ike, How do we build those pieces? For Kāko'o, with the wetland itself, it is about food, right? It is about building up the protein source. Paipai obviously controls most of the protein, for us, it's the carbohydrates, right? It's the ulu, the kalo, the uala, the pia, right? All those different pieces that we can use to build. But again, it's how do we build those systems up together? And this building right now is Opunui. Was a name with Kamuela Yim wrote it, and the idea was if our opu are nui, then hopefully our people are momona and rich. And so we built this during the pandemic, with support of Hawaii Community Foundation and other nonprofits. No federal money was used actually on this Kamehameha Schools. It was built for food production. And so within that system, we have a commercial kitchen with 3 great chefs now, and then also a poi mill. And so as we invested all of our time in building the poi mill, we realized we needed to get the production moving, because the production was not going as fast. And that's not anybody's fault. It's just kalo is tough, especially when you're dealing with a lot of invasives, right? So it's like, how do we move on this, we move left, we move right, move together though. And sometimes we got to furlough, sometimes we got to rehire. It just depends on how the system is going. But for the Maui Nui Makai Network and our families on Maui, it's about building in that system, building in the economic drivers, and developing those pieces so that we can move forward together. Yeah. And so moving out from like food production, now we're getting more into the climate side, the flooding, the mitigation, right? When within Haiku Valley, which is the valley on the left in Heʻeia, after the rains come in, every valley has a beautiful wailele, and it's white. But when that water reaches the 10,000 homes that are in Heʻeia, it is no longer white. It's full of oils, it's full of water, it's full of metal, sediment, all kinds of great things. So how do we mitigate that piece? Yeah, how do we stop that, right? So we came with the idea of local i'a established, and if local i'a are established, then we can hopefully help mitigate certain things. This is more for sea level rise, salt water coming in, salt water wedge coming through. And so looking at how the kuapas are built, I'll push to this one. I'll go back to it, of course, but when the local are present in the Heʻeia Hawaii corridor, if the volume of rain transport is reduced via ponding, yeah. And so the whole idea of this is, when you're walking on the beach and then the wave washes on your feet, and then the wave recedes, and you look behind you, and every place your foot was, you had water that got stuck there, right? And so that's basically kind of what they call about residence time and holding water back. So if we can create multiple ponding systems within an ahupua'a, when the pulse comes down, and let's say you have a 1 foot water rise in one of the lo'is. If that's an acre, that's about 248,000 gallons of water. If you have 100 acres of land, you're looking now at 24 million gallons of water being held in that one event. So that's the whole premise for us when we build local i'a, is that if we can build local i'a and we can hold the water, then one, we can reduce the force. And if we reduce the force, right, F equals MA, N times A. If we can reduce the force, then the amount of material that is transported down decreases, right? If we can hold the mass back, right, then the amount of just the amount of sediment has to be pulled out. And finally, if you can hold the fresh water there, then you're forcing it to either percolate down or evaporate up. And I'm not talking about holding it for like 9 days. I'm saying just 3 days, 2 days. What you cannot, should I say, lo'is cannot hold the water in, all days, right? Because they will drown the kalo over time. But if you can hold it for those 3 days, it should help to reduce the mass of suspended solids released into the reef, right, by locking it there, right? And if you can reduce the mass of suspended sediments released onto the reefs in the bay, then you reduce land pollution on near shore, right? I mean, for us was common sense. Our kūpuna did it. I mean, when you look at the fields of Lahaina, if you just held all that water on that land, no longer would the reefs be would be covered in sediment because you had lo'is to absorb it. Same thing if the sediments, if you have rainwater transport and ponding, then suspended sediments that settle out in the water within effluent ponds are basically held. If you can increase that nutrient uptake by native systems in those local i'a, then you increase the overall primary productivity, right? You're slowing down, you're basically creating a sieve or a screen that holds everything. And if you can hold everything, then it can go, right? And why that's important is I kind of jump ship, right? But looking at this image here, you see all the lo'i kalo established, right? And then you look out at these beautiful reefs of Malauka'a. And what do you see though, right? You actually see the reefs, okay? Now, we all know in the current images, you actually saw the indentation of reef systems within the local i'a, but in this 1922 aerial image, it's dark. You actually can't see the reef definition. But it's not sediment, because if it was sediment, it would be all black right here. So what that actually is phytoplankton. That's a really, really thick phytoplankton bloom. So thick that the ground, it was that dark green, dark brown color, yeah? Kalamai. And so that's an indication of that final primary productivity scrubbing that Kāko'o ʻiwi and Paipa are trying to achieve, right? We know that this system could hold over 100,000 pounds of mullet, right? How do we get back to that system? Again, it's the reestablishment of the local i'a, it's the reestablishment of the lo'i wai, it's the reestablishment of the local wai, and then finally the reestablishment of the primary productivity that feeds it, right? And it all, again, begins through the volume transport of ponding water, mauka, so that you can rebuild those primary productivity systems. And that's kind of like, obviously, there's a lot of work in restoring local i'a, but when you can see that modeled system established, that's kind of where we're trying to move it to, And I'm not saying it's perfect, but that is, in a sense, what we're trying to achieve, right? It was just ponding system through lo'i. Ponded systems through local way, you know. We know that climate change, rain bombs are coming, right, family? So how do we mitigate that? And that is kind of the system that we're trying to push. And then finally, now is going to go to the CAP discussion. Any questions so far on the result chains? This one is degradation. So basically, how do we increase water retention and productivity, right? So, and you guys can, of course, happy to walk through all the result chains. I did this with John Parks. I need to give him credit for this. He really helped me walk through all of the pieces of how it works. And some don't work. Some of them we realize, oh crap, we missed a lot of results within that system, but it was written out. It was drafted out. It is our kind of what we're thinking. So I'm gonna share a new screen.
Leah asked a question.
Yep.
She's asking how resilient are lo'ikalo to climate change regarding rising temperatures.
So for Kāko'o ʻiwi, we went right into that with the pu'e system and the mounded system. They are very resilient to climate change and rising temperatures. Our people had over 300 varieties of kalo, so they clearly mitigated impacts of what their aina was giving them by changing the kalo to suit that. Kelo Deming was telling us this morning, like, it's not the kalo's fault, right? And so the kalo will decide also where it goes and how it mitigates and how it grows, how it moves. And so we know that with some of our studies that a lot of the i'a kalo did handle a lot more saltwater intrusion. And saltwater will be something that we are dealing with. Paipaio He'eia is already planting kalo where the uhu's Kuleana land was, right? And so they're looking at manini and different varieties that which one can withstand those king tides. You know, plenty of our kalo can handle for 6-7 months, right? One day of salt not going to kill them. And then other kalo, one day of salt will kill them, right? It's which ones can we plant in areas that can be going, you know? So it's those questions. And then of course for us with the flooding, it was a big issue with Kāko'o ʻiwi. I mean, hello, the word He'eia is He'eia, so we know it's gonna slide, it's gonna flood. And so within our floodplains, we no longer plant other things. Only kalo is being planted there because we just have too many post events that come through and decimate our corn or decimate our uala, but yet our kalo did beautifully, mounded and not, you know. So, I mean, I really, really give credit to the Kāko'o ʻiwi staff and again, our ability to move forward. Can you guys see all this? Kalomai, can see the cap?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Real quick, I wanted to share Scott Crawford's comment.
Yep.
That Uncle John out in Kipahulu always says the kalo with fish names are more salt tolerant and can be planted
absolutely
closer to kai.
I know that manini, for instance, when my son, I don't want to give credit to my son, but I'll give credit to my son. Like his science project at Anuenue School was manini could handle almost 50%. So we're talking like 16 ppt, and it wasn't happy, but it survived for almost a month. Like that was just when I saw the numbers, we looked at the data, and he reproduced it about 4 times, and sure enough, manini held, you know. And it's like, is it because of fresh water? No, it was bubbling, right? So there was a circulation throughout the whole thing. So it's like I mean, that's why like I always felt like you guys have hammers, and it was always an honor to talk with the families on Maui. And so for me, it's like you don't need us. You guys have everything you need in this group of names right here. So yeah. Anyway, so that's why for me it's just there's a lot of mo'olelo, there's a lot of ike within our kūpuna, and I feel that we just need the chance to just do what we need to do and leave us alone. We know what we need to do. Or help us, you know, don't leave us alone, but help us get to where we gotta go. So talking about threats, obviously for the families, I'll move forward with who came through the cap. Yeah, so we sat in a couple of days. You have Christina Jenkins, Iokepo Minor, Ali'i Minor, Donald Gensler, Nick Rapoon, Shimi with the Ner, Kelly Ikotubete, Kavika Winter, Anthony Allegario, Melissa Mao, Manuel Mejia, Kim Polinsky, Jean Tanimoto, Ryan O'Connell, Dr. Leah Bremer, Rosie, and of course, Emmy, MP. So Emily Fielding. And so it was really good to have all of us. And Emily and Manuel had to hurt us because we are not a group to, we're fun. But it's again, looking at the whole system of building it out and then moving it through to where it was, looking at all the different partners that we had, what we were trying to do. But again, going back down to the threats, yeah, looking at our native systems. For the Maui Numa Makai Network, I was just talking real briefly about CAP, so that conservation action planning, so that if you guys have questions, Kāko'o ʻŌiwi, I'm happy to talk about it. You know, how we picked our targets. We did a lot more native systems, climate change, invasive plants, loss of ike. You know, how do we manage all this aina? And then obviously our main threats, climate change, invasive plants. And then, yeah, now you start to see more of the thing that really bothers a lot of our kūpuna. And then invasive animals, erosion, sedimentation, you know. So you can see the mixing of culture and then obviously contemporary stuff. Hydrology was a big issue for plenty of our families. Anyway, going out to strategies, we basically ran right into Va'a, Kua, Va'a, Kanaka, Vai, and Kai. And then for us, when we talk about succession, when we talk about everything, it really is Va'a Kanaka. And they hold a lot of pride in that. To grow Kanaka is something that we are trying to do. And then Aina Momona. Yeah, I realize that maybe not all this can be shared. Nah. Anyway, yeah. But again, for us, it's like when you talk about increased kalo consumption and you see all these actions, this is where it really gets hard. Like, you know, why didn't we get the baby food where it needed to go? Why didn't we get the expanded market? You know, how do we get to participate in these things? How do we expand all of that, right? That is, you know, and then we're like, oh, but you're selling alcohol. You're just talking about money now, money. And I'm just like, I know we got to pay parking on Oʻahu. And so it's just kind of like, how do we build that system in? You know, how do we get these pieces going? We talk about aina momona, right? That in itself, momona, how do we assess momona? Like that was our measure of ahupua'a. That was our measure of whether we could exist or not. You know, when you, I know Uncle Eddie Cashman was on it. When you talk of hamoa, it is momona, right? But it might not be because of food. It might be the people, the iwi kūpuna, like just those pieces are there. And it's just, how do we measure momona? Yeah. And so for us, we looked at water systems, flooding, not failures, you know, like it's just, how do we develop all that? Yeah, anyway, that's why, like, I know Miley was gonna fly me up and I'm happy to fly up and talk story. I hate Zoom, but I was told to do it this way. But we can just go down details about how to plant out different pieces and, you know, looking at it. You know, I think Alika asked about native fish, right? Neke, the kinola of Haumea was such an important piece to rebuilding the fish system of our wetland, you know, because Neke actually adds oxygen into the water column. So for our mullet, like having that there was such an important piece. And then we talk about pule, and that's why I said with the families that we have there, they are amazing, and I am humbled to be by them. And I don't ask them what pule it is, but I just know that they are doing things that my family does not do, and it's beautiful. Yeah, so it's just going down those strategies, actions, right? But again, for Kāko'o, it's build a lo'iwai system. Oh yeah, that's easy, no problem. Let's just build a lo'iwai. No, there's plenty permits, there's plenty pieces, there's plenty funding. Like there's a lot of stuff to implement and build through. You know, does that make, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I kept you long already, but I just going through the cap, and again, like I said, happy to sit down, talk more story with you guys about what pieces we did. We don't mind sharing because I don't want you guys to have to go through the headache of it. If some pieces work and we can help Momona parts of Maui, then I'm all for it. There's other pieces that, you know, they didn't share everything in He'eia, but those are things that we can all sit down and talk story about and share additional stuff. But it's building in those pieces, right? Nesting seabirds, water retention capacity, all those things of trying to get moving on. Okay.
Mahalo koa. I wonder if you want to stop sharing and you can open up the floor. Questions, talk story from folks. Thank you so much for everything you shared already.
How much minutes do I have left for what? Because I can go forever. Ecolo, you know that, but I just, yeah, whatever you guys have questions on.
3 hours left.
How many? 3 hours. Perfect. I got a lot of photos too, guys. So no, I think did I answer your question, brother? I hope that was helpful. But
yeah, you did. Mahalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the network members we have on right now, Ekolu Lindsay, Scott Crawford, Uncle Mac Poi Poi. If any of you folks have any questions or comments, we have some folks that have been tuning into every single.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Oh, go ahead, Uncle Mac.
How's it going?
Hello.
Yeah, good to see you. And I visit this project a couple of times, and in a beginning stage, when looking, oh man, big job. But looking at the pictures I just saw, it's amazing, And I think it's a really good model for all the people out there in a Paina to use that and gather the knowledge that was put together to make everything possible. So yeah, commend you for a good job, Ko, and all the people that will help you, all your partners. Awesome. One day I'm gonna come. I'll like see what.
Yeah, next week I pick you up. No, and again, it wasn't me. Yeah, you guys, it wasn't me. It was the families. It was the people. I give credit to like Ali Minor at the Alice Hewitt, Donald Gensler. Like we had Gene Tanemoto, Kavika Wint. I mean, we had a lot of people helping with this project, not just me. So that's why I cut Tate off. I couldn't have done it. And Uncle Mac, when you took us out to Mo'omomi, right, we knew what Momona was too, right there. So it was just and your stories helped us to navigate what we need to recognize, because what you shared with your Momona and what loss was and what was, like, we could be honest with each other about how to move forward and recognize when it isn't Momona. Hey guys, it's not Momona. We need to make it better. And how do we do that, right? So I appreciate everything you've shared with us also, So whatever we can do to Kokua, you just tell us, So.
Mahalo. Aloha, everybody.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Oh, Uncle Mac.
I'll see you next week then.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pick you up.
Hey, Koa, thank you for that presentation, man. It's mind-numbing the amount of work that you all have accomplished. You're only as good as the people who are working around you, and everybody got to contribute. I mean, obviously you involved a lot of really good people to be successful, and you guys get a long way to go too, but I'm just blown away at what's occurred in the last 10 years from when I first visited to see what's happening, as we move forward on West Maui and looking at our sediment sources and what we can do to help mitigate these sources. Our presentation is very interesting because on so many different levels, there's so many different layers of support with the wetlands and sedimentation, the food, the people. It's also a model, and definitely want to take a better look at that cap to see what I can cut and paste and put on our side so that we can try to do something with that. Yeah. So thanks for that presentation.
I would love you guys to talk with Auntie Rocky Kaluhiwa. I mean, Auntie Mahela and Cypher, they are like amazing when it comes to educating politicians. And like just I don't know, maybe too soon, but maybe $16,000 goes a long way now. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, it helps to have too soon. Sorry, it helps to have kūpuna that understand the politics of the system, because there's so much that is needed to move forward with people. And
Yeah, there's
Anyway.
that layer, right? That political layer you need to engage with. But then also with this projects, it needs to become economically feasible too.
Yeah.
So it can support itself, which is another different layer that's difficult to navigate.
Yeah. And so how do we, but that's why like, but I mean, like looking at you guys are hammers. Yeah. So I mean, for me, it's just, what can we do to help and get out of you guys' way? Because I know what you guys can, I know what all of you guys can accomplish is pretty amazing. So it's like, how can we help? How can we help?
Mahalo. Anyone else have any comments? I know we had a couple people who had to sign off early. But if anyone else on would like to ask a question or mention anything, you can either turn your video on and ask it in person or type something in the chat. Daniel Kanahele commented, mahalo. I grew up in Kaneohe. I never saw the bridge without mangroves, but my tutu did.
Please come, Daniel, when you have time. In fact, I think Maui Nui Makai, you guys can just, we can do a whole cut then to He'eia.
That sounds like a good
when COVID is safe. When COVID is.
Go ahead, Uncle Moke.
Aloha.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Moke Berga from the Lorna Hiku. I just wanted to mention and mahalo for expressing of what really takes to move forward, despite of all the barriers that you have described. You have taken a lot from 10 years, as I too have visited the project, and I'm very impressed to see the success that has done. But yeah, you have mentioned a very, very, very interesting part of, I believe, that the connection between Kanakas. You're mentioning the sole purpose, whether we're doing it for food or not, but for the Arab Kanaka. But mahalo for that, manao.
Mahalo, Uncle Moke. Would anyone else like to speak? Scott Crawford.
And honestly, because I see so many hammers, like Uncle Moke, if there's suggestions that we can make better in He'eia, please, like, share. Like, if there's things that we can do better too, or suggestions, I'm happy to hear it also. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just things we can also improve upon. Like I said, the Mu'ole Ohana has helped us to realize Momona is different than how we viewed Momona sometimes, so it's just, yeah, anyway, I look forward to seeing you guys soon. So,
yeah, I just wanted to add something on that, Koa, and for everyone, just being connected with Maui Nui Makai network has improved a lot. That's one of the vehicles that I found very useful for my personal growth, in how to relate ancestral knowledge with knowledge today, scientific knowledge, how to integrate it and how to accept it and move forward, as you have mentioned earlier. And thank you very much on how it's being done, and you've stressed a lot on that.
Mahalo, everyone. We are getting close to our time, so I do want to be mindful of everyone's time needs. Maybe you need to get back to your families for dinner. But does anyone have any final comments they would like to make?
Aloha, Koa. Good question. Yeah. How you doing? Yeah. Mahalo for the presentation. It was nice. Yeah. Actually, I grew up at Kauai on Waihole, and then I used to go to the He'eia. We used to call it He'eia. It was a big community. I used to go jump off the pier, and in fact, I can tell you legends of we used to call them the Stink Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, they had one legend. A lot of time when I used to go out, when you go out dating and you come home, you used to have a dog that he runs right through the bridge. And when you see that dog, I mean, I didn't believe it till I seen it. There's plenty other, when you're young, you're growing up, you hear, but recently when I went to visit over, it was impressive what you folks did. I was like, I never knew there were fish pond there. It was just mangrove. Yeah. You know, and we stingrays, you know. Yeah. So it's impressive. It's impressive. And nice seeing you again.
When is the next time He'eia will pick you up? Please tell him bring you out there. I know you get a house now back there, so
yeah.
Please come out.
Yeah. In fact, I used to live on the same road where he bought the house. We used to call them Hiram Fong Road. It used to be unpaved till Hiram Fong bought the place and then they paved the road.
Koʻolaupoko, was the dog brindled color? Was it a brindle dog?
It was white.
Yeah.
A white dog, yeah. Scared the life out of me. What? I'm talking like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you know, like, yeah. Yeah, so but I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. But thank you.
And thank you.
Tell him say hello to his dad, if his dad is there.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And the wife says, is your dad still alive?
My father is still alive, and in Pohai, my wife is a kukea, yeah? So my wife is Pohai. And Kahele is your classmate, right? Or
yeah, Kahele, yeah.
Yeah.
Your wife was my wife's professor. I mean, your father.
Oh, my father was, yeah. He's still
she
here.
said to say hi. Tell him hi.
We'll do.
Okay. Take care.
Good to see you again.
Mahalo, Uncle. So I think we do want to wrap up. Before we do so, Tate, I wanted to see if you had anything to say. Tate managed and coordinated this whole thing. So thank you, Tate, for making this happen.
No, just wanted to mahalo Koa for everything you went over today. There's a lot to learn, to keep learning. And I've grown up seeing all the mangrove get cut down across Paipaya and Kāko'o. So excited to see and be a part of. There's a lot of ways to go. So excited to learn more and be a part of it.
But thank you so much, Koa. Do you want to say anything in closing to this?
Nah, just humbled to be asked to speak and happy to talk you guys' ears off. And anytime you guys have questions, you guys can get my number from them, and happy to talk story, happy to give tours, and of course happy to fulfill our familial obligations to you guys as my family too. So just whatever we can do to kukua, just tell us. Okay.
All right, mahalo. Thank you so much for sharing. There's so much that we can learn from each other. So I appreciate you taking this time to share. Well, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll see you next time.
Perfect.
I'll talk to you again soon.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Karen.
Aloha.